over there.
To Emily, is it? Yep.
No, next to Emily it was first.
Oh, next, yep.
And then we'll go to Emily, if that's all right.
Well, you did answer.
You
Hold the
just
mic
put
up
the
to your
mic
chin.
Oh,
there,
like
there.
that?
Just on your chin, that's it.
Okay. So if you've reached a point where you're suffering
Yeah.
a lot.
Don't be afraid to touch the mic on your chin.
Touch the chin.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So if you reach the point where you're in a state of suffering,
Yep.
and you're still not aware of the sin that's causing it.
Yep.
So
What do you do?
What do you do?
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
A very good question, actually, because let's look at like how suffering comes about, shall we? So you're talking now about mostly physical suffering?
Yes.
Yep.
Say you've got a particular suffering.
Yep. So a particular body problem,
Yeah.
particular thing happening that causes you physical distress,
Yes.
that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yep. And
And
what?
it's
what?
constant.
And it's constant. Yep.
Shall I tell you what it is?
Join the club. I've had many constant things that have gone on for years and years and years. So this is a common thing. We need to understand why it comes about, right? So
Yeah.
to undo a problem, you need to understand how it got created.
Yeah.
Makes sense, doesn't it? So let's look at the soul. So you've got your half of the soul, male attraction too, I think.
Yeah.
Is it?
I
Yep.
think so.
Yep. Okay. So this is you. Here's your two bodies. Spirit body, physical body. When sinful emotions exist in the soul, and remember the sin can come not only from you, but it also can come from your forefathers, can't it? Because you can absorb in the womb, in particular, you could say emotions and beliefs that come from your parents are absorbed from the moment of incarnation, and the moment of incarnation is the time of your conception. So from that moment on, you're absorbing things from the environment around you, you're experiencing things. And inside the womb is very interesting because your mother and father have a large degree of responsibility for what you feel when you're inside the womb. So if mum and dad are arguing and fighting constantly, you're going to feel that inside the womb. If they have belief systems that are like out of harmony with love, out of harmony with God's truth, you're going to absorb some of those belief systems. If they have emotions that are like feel bad about themselves, they feel terrible about themselves, then you're going to absorb some of that emotionally as well. And this is all happening because inside of the womb, you haven't got the capacity to reject things yet. You haven't learnt how to reject feelings, and you haven't learnt how to reject thoughts or beliefs yet. And so in the womb, it's a very sensitive time because you haven't learnt how to stop things from entering you, so they sort of just come in at you all the time. Now, of course, that process means that inside of your soul there are feelings that you have by the time you're born, even. There's feelings that you have that are out of harmony with truth and love. Now, you might not have yet sinned, though, right, yourself, because your parents' sin has entered you, but you haven't acted upon it yet. You haven't learnt that you're allowed to act and do whatever you like yet. And in the first 7 years of your life, you start learning that. You start learning, I can take this action, I can take that action. Unfortunately, some of the actions are going to be based upon the sin you've already imbibed from your parents. So unfortunately, you're going to choose sometimes, if you don't see what's going wrong, which most people don't do until they're 5 or 6, of course the conscience is still working, telling you, if you decide to lie, your conscience will bother you when you're a child, if you try to lie, but there's a tendency to ignore it because you want to lie, because you want to get things and so forth, and so there's a tendency then to act in a manner that's out of harmony with love, based upon a mixture of the injury you received and your own desire as well. So two of them combine together, and then you take actions. Right? So in that place, you start sinning. In that sin occurs in the soul, and particularly what it does is it damages you on an emotional level. You follow?
Yeah.
So what happens is, with sin, remember I said up here sin equals and things like that. If you look at what sin is doing, sin is emotion, entering you as emotion out of harmony with love. Should we just call it unloving emotion? But what I mean by that is that it's out of harmony with God's love, that emotion that now exists in your feeling state, and that exists in your soul. Now, sin causes it, the sins of others cause it, and your own decisions cause it. There's a lot of different reasons why it's there, right? Now, because that exists now as feelings in your soul, and many of these feelings are actually against love of you. And then there's feelings that are against love of others. So you could say there's two types of feelings in a way. There's ones that refer to your love of others, right? And there's one that refers to your love of self. There's also, of course, ones that refer to love of the environment. There's ones that refer to love of God. Can you see? There's all different types of loves that we may have. But if you look at these love of others versus love of self thing for a moment, whenever there's a sin that causes you to lack love for yourself, right, you will start exhibiting emotional problems in your body.
Okay.
Because all of the energy flow now is against yourself. When you have sins that are a lack of love towards others, you will be influencing their bodies,
Okay.
not your own. Now, God actually treats sins against love of others as worse than love of self even, because you're actually affecting someone else above or beyond their will. Whereas when you do a lack of love of self, you're willingly engaged in doing it to yourself. You follow me?
Yeah.
Now, because you're willingly engaged in sinning against yourself, there is going to be a net result where the emotions that would normally flow, freedom of emotion that normally would flow in the body, that maintains the spirit body and the physical body, so it's in the soul and it maintains those two bodies, the energy pathways in these bodies will get damaged. The spirit body is the first one to get damaged. And so what happens is what you know, maybe have heard of as chakras, which are really just energy points in your body that cross over. There are around about 192 energy points in a normal body. And when I say a normal body, I mean a spirit body that hasn't received God's love. So just a normal human. In a spirit body of a person who has received God's love, there are far more. But in one who's just in a normal state, there's 192 points of crossovers, and every point generally crosses over in specific places like organs of your body, different joints in your body, there are crossovers, and so forth. And wherever you don't love yourself, your body, your spirit body first, will start having energy breakdown. And so you could say the general flow of a problem is, firstly, emotion existing in the soul, that is sin, full emotion. Right?
Could we call that emotion? It's sort of sinful emotion or unloving emotion existing almost as truth when we've decided it's truthful, haven't we?
Of course, yeah. But it is. So let's just call it sinful emotion, shall we?
We believe it's righteous in some way.
We believe it's the right thing to do, but from God's perspective, it's wrong. Yeah? Of course, with most sin, we wouldn't commit it unless we believed it was right. Isn't that true? Like, You wouldn't lie unless you thought it was a good thing to do. You wouldn't, you wouldn't steal if you thought it, unless you thought it was a good thing to do. Most of us, the things we do wrong, we do because we think it's good, right? But these are emotions that are against God's love, so therefore sinful in nature. So the sinful emotion gets now reflected into a breakdown of the energy systems. So it's energy, sinful energy, you could say, being imposed upon the bodies. And I better spell it. Right? So it's a breakdown of how God designed the body to have its energy flow, the spirit body in particular. That then causes, if we don't fix it, it then causes an energy breakdown. Let's just say, let's put there, this is in the physical body, energy breakdown, and that causes spirit body, energy breakdown first, physical body, energy breakdown, right, in the physical body. So that starts causing physical problems. It starts with pain, right? So the first part of it is pain, and then if it continues, it'll turn into suffering. In other words, it's a pain that just goes on and on and on and on and on and just gets worse.
But my pain...
If you put the up by your chin.
My pain is tinnitus in my left ear.
Yep.
And it's not exactly painful.
No, but it's annoying.
It's constant and...
Yeah. So constant ringing in one ear.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Really high-pitched ringing in one ear.
Yeah.
And it causes me...
Distress.
That's constantly.
Right. That's right. Left ear, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So there's reason for it. There's obviously sin going on, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And what I'm saying is there's a sinful emotion that it begins with, right? You want to know what it is?
Yeah.
Yep. You don't want to listen to women. It's about your mum, not wanting to listen to your mum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she is annoying.
Yeah, she's annoying, right? Yeah, but you feel you have to listen to her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you keep putting yourself in a position where you are listening to her,
Yeah.
and you really don't want to listen to her, right? You follow?
Is that simple?
It's very simple, yeah, but hard to get rid of the emotion sometimes, right? Okay, so that then causes down a effect in your spirit body where you're not wanting to hear women, and so this blocks up this area on your left side, your side of the body that affects all your hearing starts to be affected. And because it's a sin, you're not actually addressing your mother and saying you don't want to listen to her anymore and you're not going to have a relationship with her anymore while she's still berating you and putting you down and all these other things, right? And because it's you feel you're wrong if you do all of that, but actually you'd be right to do all of that, but you feel you're wrong. So you're believing the sin is righteous. You think it's right to just put up with this constant stuff coming from your mum, right? As an act of sort of loving her, right?
Yeah, in order for something to get to a physical issue, you have to have no awareness or awakening to the sin emotionally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise it wouldn't manifest into a physical issue.
So that says to me, you're not seeing that it's actually wrong to not have an argument with your mum. You think not having an argument with your mum and just putting up with her until she passes is a good thing. And it's not a good thing. Not for her or for you, actually. Right? You need to have an argument with her and say, Mum, tired of this whole berating thing that goes on, this constant annoying process that goes on. And the problem with this particular problem is you're also attracting some spirits, women spirits, who like to berate you as well, right? Because you haven't dealt with your mum. So you're also attracting them. And you don't want to hear them, so all you hear instead is there's this constant whining that goes on in your ear, but not intelligible, right? Because it's just annoying all the time. And you're not feeling your annoyance about it or your frustration with women about it. and particularly with your mum and women like her, right? So there's a spirit-body energy breakdown that occurs. The energy in your spirit body in this area, it gets affected. And then as that gets affected, you now have a physical problem coming. Initially, it's just an energy problem, which then gets worse and worse and worse until it turns into a physical symptom. So by the time you've got a physical symptom, there's already a lot that's been denied.
Yeah.
That makes sense to you?
Yeah.
Yep. So it starts with that sinful emotion, which is, I've got to keep listening to women that I don't want to listen to, which is really about not wanting to listen to mum, right, because she's annoying. So that then turns into the breakdown of your spirit. You're actually controlling your own spirit body in a way to try to turn off your hearing towards women, right? So it's a purposeful action taken because you don't want to deal with your mum in a more proactive manner. You don't want to have a fight with her, an argument with her. You don't want her to go, I don't want you in my life anymore, right? Because you feel you still need her. And so you're not going to have the conversation or the disagreement. So now you're going to have to shut yourself down. Remember I said any love of self issue is going to cause an issue in your own body. So you're prepared to shut down your own hearing rather than have an argument with your mother.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the cause of the problem. Now, you can see the sin is that you really, if you're honest, you would need, if you were truthful, you would need to have the disagreement with your mother. You'd need to go, Mum, you're overbearing, you're always at me, or, I'm sick of listening to you. It's really annoying being in your company. And unless you change this, Mum, I don't want a bar of you. I don't want you in my life. I don't want to put up with you. I don't want to be around you at all. Can you see that might trigger other feelings you have, right, of guilt and all sorts of other things? Yeah. But that's what needs to happen if you want to cure this particular problem. So what you end up doing in that state, and because it's aimed at a lack of love of self, there is going to be pain and suffering in your body, not in hers. Yeah. Right? She's going to feel like fine. Her hearing's fine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yours hearing is not fine, right? So you can see that when we lack love of self and we're unwilling to act in harmony with what love of self demands, then we are going to affect our own bodies. And therefore we'll have a breakdown of our own bodies in some way or another to the point where either they're constantly annoying and eventually can turn into pain and suffering and even death. Like a person who has cancer dies from it. Yeah. Oftentimes, right? And that's an example of an sort of extreme example that a person would rather die than deal with what they're giving out to others. They'd rather die than do it. So they'd rather have an extreme lack of love of self than they would deal with other people in their life. Right? So every physical problem you exhibit in your body is a direct reflection of your lack of desire to love yourself. Now, I've had a lot of lack of love of self in my life, so I've had lots of physical problems in my body, lots and lots. And it's taken me many years sometimes to solve them. But every one that I deal with, the actual cause, the physical problem goes away completely. Right? Just in this trip, I was pretty much abused and attacked by spirits for 7 days when we arrived in Belgium. I couldn't sleep at all, so I had 7 days without sleep or whatever. I eventually got into some emotions. I went through some emotions. I said to Mary the next day I'm going to be better, and I was. And then not only was I better, but a lot of my bowel problems are now all different as a result. So I had bowel removed when I was 18 months old. And all of those problems are starting to heal themselves now.
And also your lower back as well.
And my lower back too. Up until a few years ago, I was really struggling to stand up for a long time. On this trip since Belgium, I've been fine standing up. I don't feel any pain at all the whole day. But these have all changed from just dealing with one thing that I was dealing with. I cried for 6 hours. So dealt with the thing, and things have changed from my body. That's because before then there was a lack of love of self about the issues, which was all about accepting attack from other people and sort of believing it as well, rather than feeling it was wrong. And so lack of love of self caused those physical problems, right? Now, as I said, a lack of love of others causes a lot of physical problems generally for others, because all of your energy is aimed at others. But from God's perspective, the sin still exists in yourself. And people who have a lack of love of others generally have a lot more difficulty dealing with it, because they exhibit less problems towards themselves. So they sort of go, I'm healthy, so I don't have to deal with anything, that kind of thing. But the other person they're living with is getting more and more and more unhealthy, right?
So if you see in your children,
Yep.
yes, they've got physical problems,
Yep.
you are probably the cause of those.
Highly likely, yes. Yep. Shutting them down in some way, causing them to shut down themselves.
Yeah.
Children are very sensitive to adults trying to shut them down emotionally, right? As you well know, right? When you were children, you were very sensitive probably to adults trying to shut you down. So the more a child feels that it's being shut down emotionally, the more it blames itself for that state, the more likely it is to exhibit physical problems.
Yeah.
Yep. Of course, if it blames others, it's more likely to be free of physical problems, which isn't better, by the way, is it? It's actually worse from God's perspective. But it demonstrates in a way, though, doesn't it, how important God views love of self?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
'Cause-
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
That answered your question, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
So the basic principle is sinful emotions cause spirit body energy to dissipate. That causes physical body's energy to dissipate in the area where you have the sinful emotion is affecting you. And then that will cause initially some pain or discomfort. And then eventually that turns into suffering if it continues a long period of time. So by the time we're suffering, we're already in a lot of detunement, and we're going to have to undo quite a lot. So in the case of you with your mum, you're in this pattern with your mum of just feeling like, I've got to listen to her even though I don't want to do anything she says, right? And that's how you feel, isn't it? Pretty much. And so it's sort of like, oh, I've got to put up with her, If I love her, I've got to put up with her and all this kind of stuff. But it's not true. And use the mic.
I feel like she is the only person who loves me.
Yeah, not true. She doesn't love you at all, actually. But you don't want to accept that or feel that, and that's why you're prepared to deal with her unloving behaviour without saying anything. Does that make sense to you? And that's why you want to do it. And it's a sinful emotion. So it's going to cause you discomfort.
Yeah.
And same towards yourself. Yeah. And you're doing it for a reason, to be loved. That's the reason, because you think you're not going to be loved if you don't have a disagreement with your mum. You think that she'll change, and she might actually. You know, if she's so used to, being critical and like telling you what to do and just being generally bossy in your life, and she's very used to it, of course when you stop her from doing it, she's going to be pretty upset. Can you see how you feel about addressing her?
Yeah.
You don't want to, do you? It's like,
This is what I was meaning. The simple emotion is you got to be holding it like very closely, like something that you really treasure, and it's going to be right for you in order for you to get to the point of physical suffering.
There's a whole stream of events that have to happen to get to the point of physical suffering, and it all begins with that emotion. And the intensity of which a person wants to hold on to the emotion will determine how long this goes on for.
Yeah.
So you can feel in you do not want to have any confrontation with your mum. She won't love you if you do. And if she doesn't love you, then you've got no one loving you in your whole world, is what you feel. But that's not true. You've got God who loves you.
Yeah.
And you've got some spirit friends actually who love you. Your guide, your gardening loves you. So you've got people who love you, just not necessarily people on earth, right? but you are thinking your mum loves you, but how does a person love you if they keep on at you, not respecting your will, right? So that's not...
There's a lot of things I don't do because of fear of her disapproval.
That's
I'd
right.
like to take my kids out of school, but I can't imagine that she'd have a meltdown.
Yeah. You do a lot of things because of her disapproval. Yeah. Which is the reason why you don't want to really hear her anymore. but you still feel like you have to do the things, right? Yeah. And it's that resistance that you feel about changing it that's going to cause this to continue.
And get even worse.
And get potentially even worse, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my father has the same problem, but in the same ear, actually, left ear. He doesn't like listening to women.
It's quite a common problem.
It's a very common problem. Yeah. You can see why, though, right? Because most of us don't want to address issues with other people. We'd rather just put up with whatever we have to listen to from them without actually addressing them and having a conflict. And so we think it's unloving to have a conflict, or we think most of the time we don't even get that far. We feel that if we have a conflict, then they won't care for us in the future. They won't love us in the future. The reality is, from God's perspective, they're not loving us right now. You know, if I have to have a conflict with Mary in order to resolve an issue of love, then that means she didn't love me right now. Does that make sense? And Mary has to raise issues with me that with regard to love, then it means I wasn't loving her right now, right? So obviously our resistance to dealing with anything is often because we just don't want to feel the unloved emotion. We just don't want to feel that. Yeah.
Could I start with that before I confront her?
Sorry, you.
Could I start with, feeling the unloved before I would have a...
Yeah, it's not going to work that way. You've already done that for how many years? You already know you're unloved, right? And you already know that you can't speak up. You already know that your mum might disapprove of you if you do. You already know that. So you already know you're not really being loved, right? So you feeling about it obviously hasn't happened yet. The fastest way to feel a certain feeling is to take an action, and then you'll feel the feeling.
A truthful moral action.
A truthful moral action.
It's not about being nasty, or it's about growing in your love of self.
Yeah.
The other person might think you're being nasty, but that doesn't mean you are.
Mum, I can't put up your crap anymore. Right? Mum goes, what crap? You say, you always natter. You want me to do things that feels like I've got to constantly earn your love, but I've also got to just sit there and listen to it the whole time I'm with you. I've got to sit there and listen to your constant, what you want me to do, what you think is right for me to do, and blah, blah, blah. I've got to listen to it the whole time, and I'm sick of it.
We don't talk that much anymore.
I know. Well, of course you don't. Right?
You
just put up with it, right?
Don't answer, and
yeah.
You're just further proving our point.
Yeah, that's right. Proving our point the more you talk. Yeah. Lack of love of self is always going to cause physical problems in your own body.
It's funny how we fight for a lack of love of self, isn't it, in our sin?
Because we think we're going to be unloved, by someone else if we love ourselves. And also, a lot of us don't realise that actually we don't want to love ourselves, because if we love ourselves, we let everybody else off the hook for loving us. They don't need to love us anymore. And the beauty of that, though, is that the people who do love you will love you. It won't be because of whatever you do or say, or they'll just love you because of you being you. Right? That's not what you experience with your mum. She loves you in your mind because of what you agree with her about. which is not the same as her actually loving you under all circumstances. Love herself.
Hi.
Hi.